The grim entrance to the Silver Dragon dungeon appears before us, guarded by 2 guards in lats. Dainty-heeled shoes, shrouded in a blue glow, tread the stone floor. One of the guards, noticing the approaching figure, exclaims, "Her Majesty." A woman with long silver hair stands back and orders the guards away, wanting to speak to the captive alone. The Queen of the Silver Dragons, Roswise, appears in all her splendor and power. Roswise addresses the chained hero, sneeringly wondering what it's like for him to be a prisoner of her clan. The captive, a young man with signs of beatings, says with a defiant look in his eyes, "Kill me." A sly smirk appears on the queen's face as she hears his request for a quick death. She approaches him, touching his chin, and notices that he is handsome and determined, but he will not die easily. A sharp blow lands on the captive's face, and the queen adds that a few more scars will make his appearance perfect. The captive groans in pain, blood streaming down his face. He pleads with the queen to stop the humiliation and act faster, whether it be murder or dismemberment. Roswise, licking the perdition with his blood, offers him to join the Silver Dragon clan, alluding to his unjust captivity. With a challenge in his gaze and a barely perceptible chuckle, the captive questions whether she is worthy of his service. The queen's eye flashes anger at the impertinent question. The enraged Roswise unleashes a powerful blow on him, knocking him back and breaking his chains. In a puff of dust, the captive coughs out, struggling to recover from the attack. The queen steps her foot on his chest, angered by his insolence. She contemptuously asks Leon Cosmod if he still thinks he's a great hero who dreams of destroying the Dragon Clan. With a cold chuckle, Roswise declares that he is destined to die here, calling him an ignorant loser. Pressed against the queen's foot, Leon clenched his teeth as he listened to her words that his descendants could enjoy wealth and glory with him. Roswise remarks with a chuckle that this is an interesting hypothesis, but unfortunately he has no successor, so such a day will not come for him. With a challenge in his voice, Leon objected, "Roswise, don't underestimate people." Suddenly the queen's tail enveloped in radiance wraps around Leon's neck. She lifts him into the air with her tail, noting his stubbornness. Leon gasped, his hands desperately trying to loosen his grip on his tail, struggling to squeeze out the words. He utters, "Her Majesty." Roswise, with a mocking smile, wonders if he's finally ready to beg for mercy. Gasping, Leon states that she made 2 mistakes from the beginning. The queen looks surprised, uttering, "Huh?" as Leon continues, saying that her first mistake was to be alone with the most powerful and trained dragon slayer. Leon, still held by her tail, continues, saying that her second mistake was that she should have never. With eyes blazing red, he shouts out, "Wait, taste my blood." Roswise's eyes widen with horror as she realizes she's been trapped under the blood curse. Leon breaks the grip of his tail with effort, freeing himself from choking. The queen jerks back, her tail slackening, and Leon lands on his feet. A blush floods Roswise's face, and she feels an unbearable heat engulf her body. She sinks to her knees, grabbing herself and puzzled as to why her body is reacting this way. With a confused and flushed face, the queen asks herself what the hell is going on. Leon, standing over her, declares that very soon she will suffer a lifetime of pain brought to her soul. A close-up of Roswise's face is shown, drenched in paint, with a tear running down her cheek as she hears him curse. Suddenly, Roswise lunges at Leon, catching him off guard. The queen presses Leon against the wall, her eyes burning with the red fire of passion. Leon, completely confused, questions what's going on. Roswise breathes heavily, her face flooded with a blush, and Leon realizes, this situation, is she horny? Giving into the effects of the curse, the queen kisses Leon, her hand gently touching his cheek. A close-up of Leon's eye reflects his amazement, while his cheek shows the marks of her touch. An hour later, shoes, boots, pieces of clothing, and broken chains were scattered on the floor. Roswise's eyes still lit up red. She looks on with a thoughtful expression. Covering her bare breasts, the queen begins to speak. She turns around abruptly, her face contorted with anger as she turns to Leon. "You." With fury in her voice covering her nakedness, the queen asks Leon, "What did you do to me?" Leon calmly explains the essence of the blood curse, a forbidden technique that creates a soul bond through his blood and condemns her to eternal torment after his death. Roswise, not believing his ears, screams, Bullshit. If this spell works after you die, what just happened is this? With a note of embarrassment, Leon admits that it was an accident, a side effect he didn't expect, thinking the curse would only manifest itself with the pain of his death. Blushing and clenching her fists, the queen orders him in a rage, "Shut up." With a slight chuckle, Leon continues, reminding her, "But as far as I know, you dragons follow the rule of monogamy, right?" The realization of the consequences is reflected on Roswai's face, as Leon explains that once he's dead, she won't be able to find a new partner, leave offspring, or explain to the clan what happened. And she only squeezes out you. Leon, echoing her recent words with a sneer, reminds her that she too will now have no successor, no heir to the dragon family. A flash of purple energy surrounds the queen's hand as she, unable to contain her anger, shouts out, "You bastard." Raising a hand shrouded in a blue glow, Leon, with a fatalistic chuckle, suggests she doesn't bother, stating that she'll die soon enough as it is. The split faces reflect mutual pain as the woman utters a curse that condemns the man to a life of hatred and misery. The white-haired woman, full of determination, adjusts her outfit, mulling over what she said. She approaches the scarred man, accusing him of wretched revenge and questioning his desire to die. With an expression of disbelief on her face, the woman exclaims at the unexpected cheapness of what is happening, surrounded by glowering. A glowing blue symbol appears on the chest of a man with his eyes closed, accepting his fate. Leon Cosmod, once a legendary hero, defeater of dragons, rests peacefully in bed, immersed in memories or sleep. At the young age of 5, he fearlessly defended a girl from a ferocious dog, which attracted the attention of a great dragon slayer who took him on as an apprentice. 10-year-old Leon gazes up at the majestic building of the Imperial Academy of Dragon Slayers, where he entered and graduated with honors at a record young age. As a 15-year-old young man, he was already fighting on the battlefield, slaying dragons and reclaiming territory for the Empire. Known as the strongest hero and last hope of the Empire, Leon stands on a defeated dragon, representing victory in the war. 2 years after his capture, Leon opens his eyes, his gaze clouded with memories of the past. Abruptly awakening, he shrieks, sitting up in bed. Gasping and looking around, Leon tries to realize where he is. He finds himself in a lavishly furnished, light-filled spoo-gibbon. A little girl with dark hair and big blue eyes peeks through the ajar door. Curiously peeking out from behind the door, the girl cheerfully informs, "Hey, you're awake." Leon, blushing with mortification, exclaims, "What a cutie." Clutching his head, he tries to make sense of what has happened, assuming that his great deeds have led him to paradise, and now he has met her. Pointing to the girl, he excitedly declares her to be a legendary angel, while she perplexedly asks what an angel is. Smiling, Leon addresses the little girl affectionately, wondering about her name. With shining eyes, the girl introduces herself. When Leon repeats her name with a smile, finding it beautiful, but at the same time wondering about the strange black and white color of the angel's hair. One explains that her name means moon, as her mother said, and Leon asks in surprise if angels have mothers. Introducing himself, Leon says his name is Leon Cosmod, to which the girl joyfully exclaims that she knows Leon means lion. A surprised Leon asks who told her that, and Wen replies that her mom said so. Disbelief is reflected on Leon's face, and he wonders with bated breath who her mother is. The girl calls out the name Roseweiser with a smile, and Leon freezes as if struck by thunder. A shocked Leon pointing to himself mutters, "Your mother, Rosewise." Then I, while Moan looks at him questioningly. With a beaming smile, Moan exclaims, "You're a father." Leon's face contorts with shock and horror as the full depth of this revelation comes to him. In utter confusion, Leon realizes that Moan is his and Rosewise's daughter, while the girl calls out, "Mama." Leon's gaze is full of shock and disbelief at the sight of the approaching figure. Rosewise appears, and Moan joyfully informs her, "Mommy, Daddy's awake." To which the queen replies, "Yes, I know." Leon and Rosewise's faces are separated, and she utters, "You're finally awake, Leon." Moan says excitedly that Mommy must be happy that Daddy is awake, since she visited him every day. Rosewise discreetly confirms his daughter's words, and Leon inwardly exclaims, "Only a ghost would believe it." The queen asks Moan to go and play as she needs to talk to her father, and the girl happily agrees. Leon hesitantly asks if Moan is really his daughter, to which Rosewise replies with a smirk, "Who else could she be? She's our biological daughter." Rosewise's tail slams against the door with force as she utters, "You hate me." Leon, backing away, questions Rosewise as to why she gave birth to the child and why she saved him. The girl with silver hair and scarlet eyes, smiling slightly, reminds her of the 2-year dream and the fact that she's not going to forgive the past. The dark-haired young man in the white shirt exclaims angrily, denying his desire and saying that their coexistence is impossible. Their gazes meet closely. He confirms that touching her is torture while she smiles slyly. A lavender-colored scaly tail wraps around the leg of a young man and finds himself toppled over on the bed, shrieking in surprise, and a female figure looms over him. The girl with the tail ends up on top, pinning the young man to the bed, who anxiously inquires about her intentions. A hand clutches and tears the fabric of the shirt on the young man's chest with force, exposing the skin. Rosewise, that's the girl's name, with a magical glow in her hand, announces her intention to carve her dragon pattern on him while he begs her to stop. A glowing magical symbol approaches his body, foreshadowing that this will be his shame and make him her eternal prisoner. With a triumphant smile, Rosewise wonders who people will think he is when they see the dragon tattoo. A hero who killed a dragon or a traitor who submitted to the dragon clan. Leon, feeling the pain of the pattern being inflicted, questions why she would go so far. Rosewise, leaning over him, asks if he doesn't understand and explains that the concept of revenge in dragons is difficult for humans. With an expression of superiority, Rosewise declares that she wants him to live in this shame and be humiliated by her for the rest of his life. For their revenge combines paranoia, extremity, and the incomprehensible to humans. Leon's face contorts with mixed feelings as the purple pattern continues to manifest on his chest. Rosewise, holding it up, announces, "So let us begin," and explains that it is her great honor to make Leon the greatest dragon slayer, her husband, slave, and closest partner, which is her revenge as a dragon. The majestic silver dragon castle appears before us, shining under a clear sky. Two maids walking down the corridor whisper that the queen is in a good mood today, and one of them suggests that it is because of her husband's awakening. Leon, standing against the wall, ponders with indignation that this dragoness has declared him her husband and how horrible she is. Rosewise, in a passionate outburst, demands that Leon move faster, laughing while he complains that she has tormented him all day and night, and his lower back is nearly broken. With determination in his gaze and a clenched fist, Leon swears that he will never stay here and become her plaything. For dragon guards in armor guard the arched passageway in the castle in the light of day. Leon, peering out from behind a stone wall, notes that the side door is guarded by 4 dragons and there is no way out. Leaning against the wall, Leon ponders why there are so few guards in Silver Dragon Castle today, finding the atmosphere quiet and strange compared to his visit 2 years ago. A close-up of Leon's face expresses surprise as he utters, "Huh?" Finding a hole hidden in the grass, Leon is puzzled as to where it came from. Looking into the dark abyss, he wonders if it's a trap. Grappling with his head, Leon decides he still needs to leave, even if it's a trap, and he'll force his way out. As he prepares to climb down the hole, he mentally says goodbye to his twisted dragon mother, adding that cutie Moan can stay with her for now. Moan, pointing into the distance, happily shouts to her mother that Daddy is digging a dog hole, and it's so cool. Ross Weiss, lounging in a bikini on a chaise lounge, nonchalantly replies to Moan that she's seen it and thinks it's pretty awesome. Moan curiously asks when Mommy will go and fish Daddy back out. Ross Weiss gently corrects her daughter, saying that the word fished in relation to her father sounds very rude. The girl is perplexed, wondering what word she should use then. With a sly smile, the queen offers the option of catching it back. After a while, Leon makes his way through the dense thickets. By traversing the mountains, he believes it will be possible to see the boundaries of the human lands. He hopes that by running this far, the dragoness won't be able to catch up to him. Suddenly, Leon's face contorts with surprise and alarm. Ross Weiss appears in the sky in his dragon form, blocking his path. Ross Weiss's huge dragon head looms over Leon, and she notices that he's not a bad runner, while he exclaims in horror, "Shit." The dragon's huge, scaly tail swooped over Leon, casting a shadow. Ross Weiss, in her full dragon form, towers over Leon, mockingly wondering if he's having fun playing with her like this. Ross Weiss's dragon face draws closer, and she asks with satisfaction if his escape seems too smooth, hinting that she was the one who distracted the guards and left a loophole. With a determined expression, Leon admits that he knew of the trap, but had no choice, though he didn't expect it to catch up with him so quickly. Ross Weiss, looking down at Leon, questions what will happen if he returns to the humans with her mark on his chest, and whether he will be recognized as a dragon slayer. With defiance, Leon declares that he would rather start life as a normal person than endure her torture. With a snicker, Ross Weiss rebukes him for his ingratitude in dragon form, flapping his wings. Leon cries out, "Ah!" as Ross Weiss's huge dragon claws close around him. Carrying Leon away in her claws, Ross Weiss responds to his cries of, "Let go. Where are you dragging me, dragoness?" That since he's so eager to get back, she'll help him. 3 hours later, under the cover of night, the silhouette of a dragon with its prey approaches the border city of the Empire, heading towards a large tree. Leon lets out a loud scream, falling rapidly downward, his arm desperately reaching upward. Whizzing through the dense crown of a tree, his fall is accompanied by the crackle of breaking branches. He lands on his back in the middle of the forest thicket with a thud. Grasping his bruised head, Leon wrinkles his nose in pain. A close-up of his face expresses a sudden realization. Perched on the thick branch of a huge tree, he looks out over the sprawling nighttime city below. Puzzled, Leon questions whether this is really a human city. Ross Weiss appears in human form, confirming that this is the human empire. She asks if he feels like he can return to the human world just by stepping across, by seeing this long abandoned city. With a sly smile, Ross Weiss declares that Leon can't go back, even though it seems like it's a short walk to the city. Leon stares forward in shock, purple light emanating from the dragon mark on his chest. Ross Weiss, standing back, explains what she forgot to mention. When one of the tag bearers desires intimacy, the dragon tag reacts, causing Leon to back off. As he approaches, she asks with a smirk if he feels the heat and overwhelming desire and wonders if he wants to be here. Looking at the nighttime city visible in the distance, Ross Weiss says she brought him here so he would realize the shame of being so close to his ancestral home. Clutching his chest, Leon asks defiantly if she thinks he'll lose his faith over this. He grabs her arm, vehemently declaring that he will wait patiently for his chance, and then he will avenge her doubly for all the humiliation. Ross Weiss looks at him with surprise and a slight blush, silently listening to his threat. With a sly smile and covered eyes, she utters, "Okay." Drawing closer to his face, Ross Weiss says with defiance that she will wait for him, dead or alive. A huge tree towers against the night sky and moon with the inscription "Near the border city of the Empire." Ross Weiss, with a satisfied smile and hearts all around her, sits on Leon who is lying on the ground below her. Turning to an exhausted Leon, the queen declares herself very pleased with his recent performance. Lying next to Leon and propping his head up with his hand, Ross Weiss grinningly offers to bring him here every month to visit his hometown. Leon, sitting up abruptly, exclaims angrily that she's a dragoness, hovering in the clouds and thinking only of ways to exhaust him. To which Ross Weiss, Chibi formally admits that she's been figured out. Surrounded by purple energy and spreading her wings, Ross Weiss tells Leon it's time to go, for their daughter is waiting at home. Leon calls out to her, "Wait," and Ross Weiss turns around with a questioning expression. With a defiant look in his eyes, Leon declares that as a dragon slayer, he does not wish to be dragged like prey and will go himself. Ross Weiss explains that it takes her at least 3 hours to fly to Silver Dragon Castle, and it takes a human at least 10 days or half a month to walk, to which Leon objects, urging her not to underestimate human endurance. With an icy smile, the queen says she wants to see how long he lasts. After a while, a hand, breathing heavily, pushes the dense thicket apart. Leon, breathing heavily, makes his way through the night forest. Ross Weiss remarks that he must be unable to walk any longer, but Leon stubbornly denies fatigue. With a chuckle, the queen remarks that he only has a well-tempered tongue, causing his resentment to grow. Suddenly, both Leon and Ross Weiss are alerted, hearing something. In the distance, Leon spots a cavalry unit he identifies as the Dragon Killer Army. Hope flashes across Leon's face at the thought that these warriors might help him get rid of the dragoness. Ross Weiss's face contorts into a furious grimace that foreshadows danger. Leon realizes with horror that if he calls for help, Ross Weiss, whose eyes glow ominously, will not hesitate to kill the soldiers. One of the knights of the Dragon Killer Army, a man in lats, calls out to them, asking them to stop. The knight courteously wonders if Leon and Ross Weiss are lost while Leon tries to discreetly make a sign. Leon, with a smile and a hand behind his head, replies to the knight that they are just out for a walk, mentally adding that he can involve innocent people. The knight warns that this forest is not a good place to walk due to dangerous critters and offers them a ride. Introducing himself, the knight informs him that his name is Walker, and he is the captain of the 47th Squadron of the Imperial Army of Dragon Slayers. Leon puts his hands out in front and thanks for the kindness, assuring them that they are trained in self-defense, mentally begging the knight to stay away. Walker takes a closer look at Leon and hesitantly asks if his face looks familiar, as if they've met somewhere. A close-up shows Ross Weiss's eyes flashing with anxiety and determination against a blue glow. Turning around, Leon sees Ross Weiss's hand being enveloped in purple energy and realizes that things are bad. Leon's hand sharply intercepts Ross Weiss's wrist, stopping her impending attack, the purple energy dissipating. Leon pulls Ross Weiss into his arms, telling Walker that he must be mistaken. Turning to Ross Weiss, Leon remarks with a smile that he has a plain face, and his wife often confuses it true. Whereupon he whispers to her that he will go with her obediently, but asks her to help get rid of them first. Walker, seeing Leon hugging Ross Weiss, utters, laughing. Walker says he won't get in the way of their love and waves his hand. Leon and Ross Weiss look after Walker's retreating squad. Ross Weiss icily asks Leon if he's hugged enough. She sharply pushes Leon away, who cries out. Ross Weiss, arms crossed, tells Leon that he did the smart thing by not asking for their help. But there's one thing. She states that he needs to understand his position. Even though they have children, it doesn't mean she's his wife, to which Leon replies that he never thought of being her husband. Ross Weiss turns away and says they should go. There's still a long way to go. Leon clenched his teeth in pain, grasping his chest where the dragon mark was. His hand reaches for the departing Ross Weiss, his palm showing abrasions. Leon suddenly falls face down into the bushes, causing Ross Weiss at a gasp in surprise. Crossing his arms over his chest, Ross Weiss wonders with some disdain if he's fainted. Surrounded by a violet glow, she states what a fragile human being he is. She effortlessly lifts him up by the collar of his shirt. Turning into a dragon, Ross Weiss tosses Leon into the air with his muzzle. Leon lands helplessly on the dragon's broad back. The silver dragon soars into the sunset sky, and Ross Weiss utters what she would consider a plea for mercy this time. The majestic castle with its numerous towers and spires appears in all its splendor under a clear sky. Leon lets out a quiet groan, coming to his senses in the soft bed. Moan happily peeks out from behind the edge of the bed, exclaiming, "Daddy, you're awake." Leon, sitting up in bed and holding his head, asks how he got here, and Moan, peeking out from under the covers, replies that it was Mommy who brought Daddy back. Leon's eyes reflect the memory of Ross Weiss in her dragon form grabbing him, and he thinks with annoyance that she has finally caught him like prey. Leon looks at his bandaged hand in surprise, uttering, that's. Moan proudly announces that she was the one who bandaged Daddy's arm, expecting praise. Upon reflection, Leon recalls that draconologists consider dragons to be a ferocious race that spends their lives in violence. And although Moan has obvious draconic traits, he continues his thoughts, noting that she shows no hostility towards him and treats him like a father, wondering if it's because she's a hybrid of human and dragon. With a smile stroking Moan's head, Leon says she's awesome, to which the girl giggles embarrassedly. Leon tells Moan that she is very sweet, but asked her not to become like her mother when she grows up, much to the girl's bewilderment. Ross Weiss, appearing in the doorway, asks with icy calmness what's wrong with being like her, making Leon wince. Leon, stammering, replies that it is nothing, while Ross Weiss carrying the tray looks at him with evident displeasure. Moan proudly reports to her mother that she dressed Dad's wound according to her instructions. Ross Weiss, looking at Leon, calmly says, that's what you should do. The girl obediently replies, "Yes, Mommy." and Leon mentally notes what a strict mother she has. Leon suggests that Moan hide in the garden first, promising to come looking for her when he counts to 100. Moan's eyes light up with excitement, and she excitedly asks if Daddy really wants to play hide and seek with her. Smiling, Leon tells Moan that he is not like her mother and tells her to run away quickly. Leon starts counting 1, 2, 3, and Moan, in a panic, asks him not to count so fast. Continuing to count 4, 5, Leon watches as Moan runs out of the room in a cloud of smoke. Leon abruptly turns to Ross Weiss, sitting on the bed, and calls out to her, "Hey, I'm talking to you." To which she questions, "What?" After getting out of bed, Leon asks Ross Weiss reproachfully if she is being too hard on the child. Ross Weiss, sitting on the bed, explains that all dragons go through this, and only strictness with children from an early age can raise strong warriors. Leon objects that Moan isn't really a dragon, and besides, she's so cute. To which Ross Weiss replies that Moan is a dragon, and cute is a derogatory word for a dragon. With a slight smile, Leon notices that Ross Weiss is pretty cute too. A close-up of Ross Weiss's eye is shown in which irritation flares at his words. Ross Weiss's hand clutches Leon's shirt with force, the fabric cracking. An enraged Ross Weiss yells at Leon that he's just a slave to vent her anger and to stay out of the way. Leon utters with a confused look. Ross Weiss, adjusting his collar, says it's good that he understands. She's the queen of the Silver Dragon clan and has many affairs of state, so the care of the child falls to him. Moving closer to his ear, Ross Weiss adds with a smile that the kid loves him. Leon stands on the sun-drenched path in the garden, pondering the fact that she is a dragon queen and very busy, and that dragon slayers seem to be in charge of raising children now. Leon, standing in the garden, looks puzzled, saying, "Huh?" Moan peeks out from behind a pillar, and Leon thinks she's too naive, believing she won't be found if she hides behind him. Holding out his hand, Leon shouts joyfully, "Found you, Moan." Chibi style, Leon points to Moon, who is standing back, and he looks a little confused. A close-up of Moan's disgruntled face is shown, and Leon wonders if she's angry. Smiling embarrassingly and scratching the back of his head, Leon apologizes to Moan for keeping her waiting. Moon suddenly runs away, and Leon, surprised, shouts after her, "Moan, what's wrong?" Holding out his hand, Leon asks a fleeing Moan why she's running away. Looking around on the garden path, Leon is puzzled as to where she's propaganded to, since he's just seen her run through here. With a confused expression on his face, Leon concludes that the child's mood is really hard to predict. Leon, standing in the garden and scratching the back of his head, ponders that it's no wonder why Ross Weiss has assigned him to watch the baby, while Moan peeks out from around the corner. Suddenly, Moan jumps on Leon's back, exclaiming happily, "Haha, Moan caught Daddy." A puzzled Leon asks Moon if she just ran past him, while the girl looks at him with a questioning expression. Moon explains with shining eyes that Daddy couldn't find her, so she went out to look for him herself. With a look of doubt on his face, Leon wondered if he had made a mistake. The girl calls out to Leon, saying she wants to show him something, and he obediently follows her. A close-up of Moon's face with a serious and slightly pensive expression, she is silent. At a family dinner, which is supposed to be a time for socializing, Leon is agonizing. Ross Weiss sits across the table, and next to Moon is another girl who asks her sister to help her cut the food. The two daughters are similar in appearance, but their personalities are quite different, and it is noted that Noah, the second girl, is clearly more like her mother. With a friendly smile, Leon asks Noah if she likes today's food. Noah exclaims, "Disgusting," in disgust, and Leon feels as if pierced by invisible arrows. Ross Weiss, covering his mouth with his hand, chuckles quietly at the situation. Moon asks her mother why she is so happy, and Ross Weiss replies that her father is finally reunited with his family, and she is happy to see him, so happy too. The queen turns to Leon, asking why he isn't smiling, to which he replies with a strained smile that of course he's happy to be with his family. Moon asks hopefully if Daddy can have dinner with them every day, and Leon, stammering, mentally exclaims that he doesn't want to have dinner with that dragoness every day. Noah decisively declares no, cutting off the conversation. Moon asks with surprise, why not? And Noah explains that he wants to study in the Young Dragon faculty at St. Heath Academy. Ross Weiss clarifies with Noah that St. Heath Academy's Young Dragon faculty is full of 4- or 5-year-old dragons and wonders why she's so eager to go there. With burning eyes, Noah declares that he wants to defeat more dragon slayers, causing Leon to choke up. Leon, covering his mouth with a napkin, thinks anxiously that this kid seems to want to beat him, his own father. Leon, with a concerned expression, tells Noah that dragon slayers are very brave, and she's too young, could get hurt. Noah, arms crossed, angrily objects to not being treated like a child, while Leon mentally screams that she is a child. Ross Weiser remarks with a smile that Noah's idea isn't a bad one, because the sooner she learns, the sooner she can fight the dragon slayer. The queen, turning to Leon, challenges him to ask if he is right, or if he has a reason to prevent Noah from going to school. Leon, looking away, ponders that if he continues to object, Noah will hate him even more as a father, and he can only try to gently change her mind. At the table, Leon, looking at Noah, utters, "No, no more," trying to talk her out of it. With an expression of epiphany, Leon looks at Ross Weiser thinking, "Damn, I finally get it." The image of a giant Ross Weiser appears before Leon, and he realizes that this dragoness wants to use Noah to morally attack him during this dinner. Clutching his knife and fork, Leon angrily thinks, "Just wait, Ross Weiser, you'll get your ass kicked later." As the queen announces that since his father agrees, it's settled, and the entrance exam for St. Heath Academy will be held in a month, and his father will help Noah prepare. Noah, chibi style, clenches his fist and obediently replies, "Yes, mommy." The caption, "End of family dinner," frames the scene where Moan, stroking her round tummy, says to Noah, "Sis, look." Moan's tummy is round, while Ross Weiser stands behind her. Leon calls out to Ross Weiser, and she turns to him, standing by the bookshelves. Pointing to an untidy table, Leon remarks, "These plates have not yet been put away," to which Ross Weiser looks puzzled. The queen replies with mild surprise, "Just let the servants do it." Leon, putting his hand on her shoulder, explains, "After dinner the couple cleans up and washes the plates together. It's the proper way to end a family dinner." Drawing closer, he adds with pressure, "Don't you want to create a harmonious family atmosphere in front of them, even if it's just a fake?" Myun, looking at them excitedly, utters, "Looking forward to it." And Noah stands beside her. Ross Weiser, covering her eyes, reluctantly agrees. "Okay." Myun, raising his hand and shining with joy against the stars, exclaimed, "Myun wants to help too." Noah decisively leads Moan away behind her as she screams in panic, "Sis, where are we going?" In the sink, under the dripping faucet, is a stack of dirty dishes from dinner. Ross Weiser, standing in the kitchen doorway, impatiently asks Leon when he's going to help. Leon, crossing his arms over his chest, and with a slight chuckle, wonders if Ross Weiser has forgotten his words from 2 years ago. Ross Weiser's face tenses as Leon reminds her that she should never be alone with a highly skilled and powerful dragon slayer. The queen, looking up at Leon from below, anxiously asks what he is going to do. Leon explains that he used to be exhausted after the long journey, and so he was controlled by her dragon pattern, but now things are different. Ross Weiser's tail, shrouded in a blue glow, rushes sharply towards Leon as she asks if he's thinking of escaping with this ruse. Leon's black-gloved fist meets the powerful blow of the queen's tail. Leon, pushing her tail away, asks defiantly who said he was going to run. Ross Weiser, with a flushed face and an expression of shock, lets out an exclamation of Kaya. Ross Weiser, with face contorted in pain and hair fluttering, utters, "You." Holding her tail, Leon grinningly wonders if she is unable to do anything about it, explaining that the dragon pattern makes the tail extremely sensitive, and this new knowledge he learned from her dragon book. As Leon gets close to her, he notices that the dragons Ross Weiser are eager to conquer and control everything. Ross Weiser's eyes widen with amazement and a slight blush as he questions if she was ever conquered. Despite her heavy breathing, Ross Weiss remained completely flushed on the floor. Right after, she demanded that he release her tail. In revenge, Leon reminded her how he had been humiliated purely for her pleasure. With that, he suggested they try something different, provoking a flood of insults from her. Quickly, the wound reacted, trying to break free. Meanwhile, two maids wondered whether the prince's make had finally ended. Soon after, they entered the kitchen, surprised by how clean it was, and questioned whether the prince was responsible. One of them smiled, enchanted by a perfectly clean dish. Through the crack in the door, the dragon silently watched their conversation. Immediately, he silenced her, warning that the maids could not see her in that situation. Right after, the kitchen door closed. The young woman glared at him furiously. He approached, stating that now they could begin. His gaze was firm and determined. At that moment, her eyes seemed helpless. 3 days later, in the kingdom's vast castle. Curious, Moon asked if their father was dead from sleeping so much, but No decided to investigate immediately. A small kick landed on the sleeping man's face, making him feel the pain of the blow. Thus, No confirmed that he was alive, leaving him shocked at how he was being treated. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the younger girl startle when she realized he was awake. Immediately, the little one ran off to tell Rosweiss. While the man tried to understand when exactly he had passed out, the woman simply asked if he really needed to be reminded of what had happened. With that, Leon recalled that he had been knocked out with a single punch that night. Sitting on the bed, he reflected that any ordinary person would have died from such cruelty. Even so, he admitted that she was very beautiful and didn't look her age. The girls then asked what was wrong, but No said he was only staring at their mother. Discreetly, Rosweiss knocked over a flower ornament on the vanity with her hand. The sudden movement made the warrior turn toward her. Then, he picked up the delicate accessory. With a calm gesture, he placed the ornament in her hair, saying that it suited her very well. She then asked him how many women had heard that same line. The dragon replied that when he was a boy, he only knew how to take care of his uncle's donkey. Curious, Moon asked her father what a donkey was. He then described it as an animal with big ears that complains a lot, just like their mother. The comparison made the woman glare in furiously. Soon after, she struck him with a strong punch to the stomach. The daughters asked if their father was okay, and he replied yes, still in pain. The matriarch then announced that he would teach the girls how to write, making him complain for not being consulted first. Moon celebrated the news, while No declared she could do it by herself. Soon after, both ran off to the library to find a pencil, and No chose the color purple. Alone with the dragon, Rosweiss informed him that her sister would be visiting and could not see the daughters. He then asked why, wondering if her family didn't want to meet them. With that, the woman explained that he was now Leon Cosmo, a dragon who had awakened after 2 years. Finally, she ordered him to memorize the surname in case he encountered her sister. He simply confirmed that he understood Her Majesty's orders. As he watched her leave, he wondered whether the queen truly believed he would obey her. On the contrary, he decided that he would make her suffer the greatest humiliation in front of her sister. In the study room of the Silver Dragon Temple, the lesson was beginning. Leon then demonstrated to his daughters how they should write, asking them to pay close attention. Right after, he showed them their written names and asked them to memorize the writing before practice. However, Noel complained that his handwriting was ugly, claiming that their mother's was much prettier. Noon asked what he would do, and the dragon replied that he needed to return something to their mother. As he left, he warned that he would come back to check their work, making Noel wonder if he was an idiot. Her sister commented that he seemed happy, but the little silver-haired girl denied it, admitting that at least he wrote quickly. Even so, she couldn't hide a slight blush on her face. Meanwhile, at the city gate of the Silver Dragon Temple, an important visitor was arriving. The newcomer was Isabelle Melquet, Queen of the Red Dragons. Right after, she hugged Rosweiss, happy to see her sister again after so long. The visitor commented that it had been a year since they last met, and said that the other looked healthier. With that, she asked why her husband wasn't there since she had heard that he had awakened. Rosweiss lied, saying that he wasn't feeling well, and the queen expressed regret at not being able to meet the dragon who had won her sister's heart. Finally, she teased that they must get along well to have children so quickly. Her sister denied having any feelings for him, claiming that the marriage meant nothing. Isabelle simply remarked that she was still the same proud person as always. Then, the hostess suggested they go to the garden to talk while they walked. From afar, the two walked side by side, holding each other closely. From a window, the prisoner watched them through a telescope, identifying Rosweiss's sister. With a determined look, he decided it was time to test the influence of the dragon mark. Meanwhile, Isabelle spoke about the recent instability in the territory of the Fire Dragon King. Upon hearing this, Rosweiss remembered a name, Constantine, as the image of a fire dragon appeared in her mind. She asked if he had disappeared, but her sister speculated that he might be trying to expand his territory. Suddenly, a mark on her chest glowed intensely, causing her a sharp jolt. At that exact moment, she felt a strange connection forming. Isabelle asked if something had happened, but the warrior covered it up and asked her to continue the conversation. In her thoughts, she cursed Leon, knowing he was the cause of that feeling. Soon after, she suggested reinforcing the border defenses to prevent any incident. With that, she felt the dragon mark's effect growing stronger in her body. Her sister noticed that she was sweating and asked if she was feeling all right. Ross Weiss then made up an excuse, saying she had to deal with an important matter and would return in 20 minutes. When Isabel offered to accompany her, she refused, saying it wasn't necessary. The queen figured it was the dragon mark, commenting on how young people these days love to play around. Meanwhile, Leon relaxed in his chair, wondering how long Ross Weiss could endure. Soon after, she burst into the room, shouting his name, leaving him surprised at how quickly she had returned. She grabbed him and asked if he had made the mark resonate on purpose to embarrass her in front of her sister. The man pretended to be innocent, asking if it was his fault for missing her. His words left her completely speechless. The sudden comment left her startled and deeply blushing. Leon realized the effect was good because at least he had managed to land a blow on her. Ross Weiss scolded him, telling a prisoner not to be shameless and to keep his thoughts to himself. In her mind, she admitted she had been fooled by his words when she was planning to beat him up. She then warned him that he was spared this time, but the dragon merely teased her by making a face. Reflecting, he realized that with just one sentence, he left the woman speechless, proving the power of the dragon mark. However, he wondered why his heart pounded harder every time he thought about her. Immediately, he scolded himself, telling himself to stop thinking about such horrible things. Then he remembered that the girls were waiting for him, while Myun wondered why he wasn't coming back. At the gates of the city of the Silver Dragon Temple, Ross Weiss's sister says her farewell. With a wave, she announces that she is already leaving. Then, Ross Weiss smiles and asks her sister to be careful on the way. Already in dragon form, the visitor insists on meeting her sister's husband, and Ross Weiss promises to introduce him next time. Soon after, she flies away into the night sky. The Silver Queen watches her leave with a serious expression. After that, she angrily thinks that she will teach the dragon hunter a good lesson. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Leon suddenly sneezes. Reading a book, he wonders if the dragon woman is speaking ill of him. At that moment, he notices that Myun and Noelle have already fallen asleep in bed. Carefully, he adjusts the blanket over them so they won't feel cold. Then he leaves the room silently so as not to wake them. As soon as he tries to leave, a hand slams the door shut in front of him. Ross Weiss stops him from leaving while he asks if her sister is already gone. Irritated, she reminds him that they still have unfinished business today. The sovereign drags him down the hallway by force, ignoring the prisoner's desperate protests. Soon after, they arrive at the luxurious room of the Queen of the Silver Dragons. Then, a wooden basin with hot water is placed on the floor. Leon then brings the water, asking what she needs it for. The warden replies that she is tired and orders him to help her wash her feet. The unexpected order leaves him completely astonished. Still, she insists that he obey, claiming it as punishment for what happened earlier. Reluctantly, the former hunter kneels, feeling humiliated to be serving a dragoness. As he holds the woman's foot, he wonders how many hunters she has already trampled. Ross Weiss becomes confused, wondering why he is just standing there admiring her feet. Blushing, she questions herself he might have a foot fetish. Impatient, she demands that he put her foot in the water already. Then, her feet are submerged in the basin of hot water. Suddenly, the queen screams that the water is too hot and kicks him in the face. From the impact, Leon is thrown backward. She accuses him of trying to take revenge with the excessively hot water. With a provocative smile, he reminds her that she was the one who asked for his help washing her feet. Ross Weiss claims that he seems not to have learned his lesson. With her foot on his chest, she asks if he ever thought he would be trampled by a dragon. Then, she wonders what would happen if she pressed a specific point. The strong pressure makes him grimace in pain and discomfort. Leon asks her to stop, while feeling a strange mix of shame and pleasure. With that, the dragoness challenges him, wanting to see how long he can endure it. Even so, he decides that he will not surrender to that woman's tyranny. With a swift movement, he firmly grabs her foot. Leon then comments that he has eaten many kinds of legs, but never dragons. The threat leaves Ross Weiss shocked, unsure of what he will do next. Soon after, he bites her leg, declaring that he would eat raw dragon claws. A furious scream echoes through the castle, with the queen promising to kill Leon Cosmode. The next day, Noon wakes up still sleepy in bed. Curious, she asks her mother why she is limping, but Ross Weiss only replies that it is nothing. Soon after, she asks Leon about the bandage on his face, hearing the same evasive answer. The girl's expression becomes confused at their replies. With that, she cheerfully concludes that it was a fun game and also wants to take part. In the garden surrounding the Silver Dragon's castle, Leon and Ross Weiss walk in silence. Ahead, the woman walks with an irritated expression while he follows closely behind. From a distance, two maids observe them, thinking the scene resembles a romantic date. However, one of them finds it strange that the queen and the prince do not seem close. Ross Weiss continues her walk without saying a word. The man also seems uncomfortable with the situation. With that, he breaks the silence and questions her about the reason for this walk. Moments earlier, he had refused to go out for a walk with her. The dragoness then explained that they needed to maintain the facade of a harmonious family for the people. Back to the present, he thinks she is acting strangely and wonders what she is plotting. Hidden, Noon comments that her father is so slow that he doesn't even know how to hold her mother's hand. Determined, she decides she will help even with Noah trying to stop her. Without hesitation, she runs towards them while her sister pleads for her to leave it alone. Suddenly, the little girl appears behind the couple, and Leon asks, surprised, how she got there. Noon then grabs one hand from each of them and joins the two together. Then, she explains that to take a walk, they need to hold hands. Hidden, the girls find the couple way too sweet, and No concludes that it is their mother who doesn't fit in. The man then reflects that he didn't expect holding hands would affect Ross Weiss so much, thinking that she doesn't know how to get close to the girls. Then, he comments that sometimes they call her mother, and Ross Weiss asks if there is anything wrong with them. He explains that normally they would say mommy along with daddy, and the way they say it sounds distant. The Silver Queen becomes confused, questioning if there really is a big difference between the terms. With a smile, the hunter suggests they try to get the girls to call her mommy to feel closer. The suggestion leaves Ross Weiss completely surprised and speechless. She then decides they will try that from now on, and he complains about being pulled to walk faster. As they walk, Ross Weiss asks if he misses home, saying she has something to ease his nostalgia. Then she leads him to a storage building located behind the mountain of the castle. Leon asks what kind of place it is, and she replies that she hasn't named it. As she unlocks the door, she says he can call it a storage room or a back room. As soon as the door opens, she states that the name doesn't matter. When they enter, Leon is impressed with the place and asks if it's a dragon's storeroom. Next, he notices a bracelet his grandmother gave him, commenting that it would be worth a fortune in the Empire. Ross Weiss then explains that some items are meaningful to her, while others are just war trophies. Later, he asks about her family, and the Silver Queen reveals that she and her sister were raised by their grandmother. Leon adds that he also grew up in an orphanage and was adopted by his master. Curious, he asks what she really wanted to show him there. The woman approaches a chest, claiming that its contents will help him forget his worries. When she opens the chest, Leon is shocked to see his black and gold armor. Ross Weiss then asks if he hadn't always wanted to recover that armor. In disbelief, he wonders if he's dreaming and if she's really going to return it to him. With a mischievous smile, she confirms that she is. However, as soon as he touches the armor, a seal of magical runes shines brightly. Leon notices the runes and laments that his old friend has fallen so far. With a victorious air, Ross Weiss reveals that he has finally fallen into her trap. As the energy surrounded him, Leon asked angrily what Ross Weiss had done. With a smile, she revealed that she had placed a dragon mark on the armor, activated by his touch. Then, the prisoner's hand convulsed as the effect began. He grabbed his chest, regretting that he had trusted that dragon. With a satisfied smile, the queen remarked that the mark's effect would double. Soon after, she grabbed his chin and teased him, asking if he could handle it. With difficulty, the warrior clenched his teeth while trying to say her name. With that, he was pushed backward, completely losing his balance. Pinned to the ground, he felt an intense urgency take over his body. Ross Weiss revealed that she had been searching for ways to make him lower his guard, as she hadn't expected him to fall so easily. Surprised and speechless, Leon could only stare at her, his face flushed. With a victorious air, she then asked if her performance had been convincing. He asked in shock if everything she had said about her family and holding hands was a lie. As she approached, Ross Weiss stated that it was all true, but that didn't change her plans for him. Finally, She touched her own body and reminded him of what he had said before. The Silver Queen reminded him that he had said she liked being in charge. With a smile, she confirmed that she really did like to be in control. Then, she asked if her dear husband was ready before kissing him, making him curse. The large storage room doors closed, sealing the fate of the dragon hunter. After a few hours, he cried out of relief, thinking that it was finally over. Lying beside him, Ross Weiss watched him with a satisfied expression. Irritated, Leon asked what she wanted now. Holding his chin, she commented that his scars had faded and that he had a more mature look. The prisoner then protested angrily, stating that he wouldn't fall from her trap again. As she got dressed, the woman admitted with a smile that he had also become smarter. However, she paused, making Leon uneasy. With a mischievous smile, she finished by saying that his body had deteriorated a lot. Confused, he could only ask what that meant. Her statement that his body had decayed left him completely shocked. The repetition of the phrase left him frozen in complete despair. The humiliation continued as the queen's words echoed in the prisoner's mind. The next day, a new dawn rose over the vast castle. With an exhausted appearance, Leon opened the door and asked who was there. On the other side, Ross Weiss greeted him with a good morning, while Noah waited silently. With a teasing smile, she remarked that he didn't look like he had slept well. Leon then asked whose fault that was, but the woman pretended not to remember anything. Watching the scene, the little girl just thought that they had already started arguing again. Ross Weiss then informed him that he needed to give no lessons for the academy's strict test. Next, she teased him by saying that after yesterday, he could only prove his worth in other areas. Furious, Leon protested that the previous night, he just hadn't been in good shape. Then, he promised he would make no pass the test, but demanded something in return. The Silver Queen accepted the deal on the condition that his request wouldn't be excessive. With a determined look, the dragon agreed to the proposal, sealing the deal. Ross Weiss wished them good study and told him not to push himself too hard, leaving him irritated. Noah then asked why he argued with Mommy, and Leon replied that it was just their way of talking. Surprised, he asked the girl what she had just called Ross Weiss. Innocently, the little girl simply repeated the word Mommy, holding her book. Then, he asked if she preferred calling her that, and Noah timidly confirmed that she did. With a satisfied smile, Leon celebrated, having guessed that she would like it. In response to his reaction, the little one just stayed silent, a bit embarrassed. Soon after, she said it was time to study and began to walk, making her father ask her to slow down. Although they were in the study room of the Silver Dragon's castle, two little creatures were making themselves known. Nearby, the young man was focused on his studies. However, the Valkyrie approached and asked why he hadn't gone to sleep yet. Because simple lessons weren't enough for Noah, he explained that he was preparing a special study plan for her. Thus, he claimed to be sure that the girl would pass the test with only 1 month of study. In response, the woman proudly said that the girl took after her, but he looked at her with a smile and said he seriously doubted that. Right after, he boasted about having graduated as a genius and having won all the school's honors. Moreover, he asked what awards the queen had won, leaving her speechless. Still surprised, the warrior reflected, not imagining that he was so intelligent as well as strong. Even so, she teased him about how he ended up as her prisoner, making the young man shout that he had only lost once. As he lamented his misstep, the blonde mocked him, saying that the queen stepped on him. Then she noticed a plate of peppers on the table. Curious, she asked what he was going to do with them. So the young man replied that he had brought them from the kitchen to stay awake. However, she warned him that those were yellow peppers from the dragon clan, and that he wouldn't handle them. Still, he ate the pepper and his reaction was immediate. Soon, he screamed that it was way too spicy. With his mouth on fire, he started desperately searching for water in the room. Then the woman held his face to calm him down. Immediately, he was surprised and speechless at the unexpected touch. A little embarrassed, she explained that she thought her cold hands might make him feel better. With that, the young man noticed that her fingertips were cool and pleasant. Feeling the touch, he realized how soothing it was. Soon after, he thanked her, saying he was already feeling better, and she stepped back. After the moment passed, they were both visibly embarrassed. Finally, the Valkyrie ordered him to go to bed, warning him not to eat any more peppers. As he watched her leave, he thought that for a moment, he had wanted her to touch his face more. But he quickly grew irritated, remembering that he had been tricked by that evil dragon. Even so, he returned to his books, determined to find a way to recover. Then he flipped through a book, dismissing the red dragon fruit and the Linjin Yu herb, until his eyes fixed on a page describing the dragon big force. With a smile, he realized that he had finally found what he needed. The next day, he informed the girl that he had already corrected her practice test. She then made a guess of 50 points. With a smile, he showed her the result, 62 points, a little above what she expected. Despite this, the little one clenched her fists, visibly dissatisfied. For the young man understood that she had high expectations for herself. Still thinking, he noticed that unlike Myun, this girl had chosen to study instead of playing. To encourage her, he patted her head and said that 62 points was a very good result. In this way, she thanked him and said that now they should focus on the wrong answers. Soon after, he had a coughing fit, so he apologized and explained that his throat was irritated because of the peppers from yesterday. Meanwhile, the blonde showed up to see Noah and told her that her father had worked all night. Thus, she revealed that to stay awake, he had eaten super spicy yellow peppers. Then, the girl surprised him by holding out a small container and telling him to take it. Surprised, he asked if it was for him, and the young girl confirmed, explaining that it was his wife who had sent it. With a smile, he asked her to thank her mother for him, wondering how that woman could be so kind. Then, he cheerfully suggested that they continue studying, bringing father and daughter closer together. Sometime later, in the kitchen of the Silver Dragon's castle, everything was prepared. Soon, two maids entered with all the requested ingredients, and the young man told them to leave them there. Meanwhile, he thought to himself that he had asked for irrelevant items so they wouldn't guess his plan. Furthermore, he reflected that despite using common ingredients, the success rate of the potion was very low. First, he began the process by grinding and mixing all the necessary components. Then, he added them in order into a pot to cook. Hours later, he was frustrated to realize that he had failed once again. He still regretted having followed the book's methods several times, always failing at the purification step. The separation method described using high heat could easily nullify the medicine. Therefore, he concluded that he needed a more effective way to separate the medicinal residues. At that moment, a lightning bolt cut through the sky outside. Sitting in a chair, he looked out the window and remarked that it was going to rain soon. However, when he looked again at the flash of light, he had a sudden idea. He remembered his alchemy teacher saying that electrolysis sometimes succeeded where fire failed. Excited, he decided to try distilling using his magic, but questioned its efficiency given his still limited power. Even so, he claimed to have enough control to use his magic precisely. Half an hour later, he held a small pill and celebrated his success. With a satisfied smile, he concluded that preparing dragon medicine was simple. Suddenly, his daughter appeared and asked what Daddy was doing. Immediately, he froze for a moment, surprised by her presence. Startled, he shouted her name when he noticed her. He tried to cover it up, but the little girl asked if Daddy was hiding candy. Quickly, he explained that it was medicine for her mother, making the girl ask if Roseus was sick. He reassured her, saying it was just to help her recover from exhaustion, although he had made it for himself. Mew then happily asked her father to take good care of Mommy. He agreed, thinking that he would definitely take care of her when he fully recovered. Meanwhile, a heavy storm fell over the castle. Back in his room, the alchemist wondered about the side effects of the supplement on humans. Therefore, he decided to leave it aside for now, frustrated by the situation. At that moment, a noise at the door caught his attention. Surprised, he asked the Majesty what she was doing in his room. The visitor revealed that she had heard from their daughter that he had prepared a special medicine for her health. Embarrassed, he thought about how his little dragon could gossip so quickly. She then calmed him, saying she was surprised that he could make potions in such a simple environment. Next, she asked to see what he had prepared, so he handed over the box, thinking she would take it from him anyway. After opening the container, the woman praised him for creating dragon strength perfectly in such poor conditions. He was shocked by the praise and wondered if she was really being serious. Roseus said that he could keep the medicine, but warned that it couldn't be consumed right now. Desperate, the young man asked why it was forbidden. Then she explained that the effect was too strong for a human body, making him wonder if the medicine was truly that powerful. The queen stated that she was saying this for his own good, because a human wouldn't withstand the effect. Indignant, he declared that he had already defeated countless dragons and accused her of underestimating him. Completely ignoring the warning, he put the pill in his mouth. Immediately, he declared that courage is the anthem of humanity, while Roseus screamed his name in despair. At that very moment, he felt the pill's power surge through his body. Thus, the warrior ran to him and scolded him, warning that she wasn't good with healing magic. Then she held him and said she would try to break the medicine's effect first. Even in pain, he struggled while she shouted for him not to move. With his body crackling with energy, he stared at the Valkyrie and declared that this was human courage. Under the rain, a large amount of energy gathered around the palace. Suddenly, the young man screamed as blue lightning completely surrounded his body. Frightened, the queen wondered what he was doing using lightning magic on himself. Still, he simply endured the pain as the electric energy continued to flow. Soon after, he lost consciousness, and she caught him before he could hit the bed. With the young man lying down, Roseus asked if he had completely lost his mind. Then she turned away, saying she would wait and call the palace doctor. However, her hand was grabbed before she could step away. The Valkyrie looked back, surprised by the sudden gesture. In an instant, he grabbed her tail with a dazed smile. Irritated, she demanded to know what he was doing now. With a happy expression, he called her his wife and asked where she thought she was going. Completely shocked, she questioned who he was calling by that title. As she demanded that he let go, he refused to let his wife leave. Seeing him persist, the warrior wondered if the lightning magic had caused mental confusion as a side effect. She concluded that even acting like an idiot, he didn't seem to be in danger. With his persistence, she finally gave in and asked what it was that he wanted so badly. The alchemist then replied with a smile that he wanted to have another child with his wife. The unexpected declaration left her completely speechless and visibly embarrassed. Even when she scolded him for not taking care of the children they already had, he insisted he wanted a third. To avoid further trouble, she decided it was better to keep playing along for now. Thus, Roseus agreed to have more children and even to visit his homeland when they were ready. As he celebrated, she thought that him acting spoiled was even more annoying than usual. Next, the bold man called her the best wife and leaned in to kiss her. The queen pushed him away, telling him not to take advantage while wondering when the medicine's effect would wear off. Soon after, she called him an idiot and punched him in the face. After knocking him out onto the bed, she sighed and admitted she couldn't help but hit him. Concerned, she leaned in and asked if he was okay. Suddenly, he woke up saying he felt a little strange. At that moment, the warrior panicked upon seeing a dark mark appear on his chest. She wondered how the dragon mark on his chest could have activated now. Then, he firmly grabbed her shoulder. As he gently pushed her toward the bed, she asked what he thought he was doing, but the young man replied that he felt strange. Soon after, he described how his body felt too hot and his chest was pounding. The queen then realized that the dragon mark combined with the lightning had intensified his desire for vital energy. With that, he hugged her by the tail, saying that he loved her, making her think she wouldn't be able to stand it if this continued. Irritated, she pushed him away and shouted for him to get off since her tail was dragging on the floor. Suddenly, the alchemist paused and placed a finger on her lips. He changed his tone and told her she looked incredibly beautiful tonight. Surprised, she realized his attitude had shifted to an intensity that wouldn't take no for an answer. At that moment, she began to wonder if she was also unconsciously wanting the same thing. With a gentle voice, he asked if his wife could help him with this. Embarrassed, she finally agreed, but warned that it would only be for tonight. In an instant, the two shared an intimate and silent moment united by the storm outside. The next morning, the sun shone over the palace. Leon finally woke up, feeling the effects of the previous night. Beside him, Rosways watched and asked if he was already awake. Completely startled, he moved away and asked what she was doing there. Then, he sat up, complaining that his whole body was sore. As he tried to understand what had happened, she asked if he didn't remember anything. With a teasing smile, she showed him the marks on his back, saying that a dragon hunter shouldn't forget such things. Shocked, he wondered if he was really the one responsible for those bite marks. Suddenly, flashes of the previous night flooded his mind. With a full memory of the events, Leon screamed in embarrassment. She then asked if he now remembered how he had begged her last night. As he continued panicking, Rosways began repeating the words he had said. Desperate, the alchemist interrupted her, saying there was no need to continue as he already remembered everything. He reflected that he had created the elixir to improve his health, but hadn't imagined the effect would be so extreme. Leon admitted he had overdone it and asked if he had hurt her, but she assured him she was fine. With a smile, he stated that now she knew his body well and could no longer claim he couldn't handle it. Rosways simply stared at him with an intense expression. Then she came closer, and he asked what was wrong. She grabbed his chin, praising his performance and saying she expected him to keep it up. Indignant at the comment, Leon asked if he had now become her servant. Changing the subject, she mentioned the bet they had made about the treatments. She then admitted defeat and asked if he had already thought about what he wanted as a reward. Leon replied with a sly smile that he had already decided. Then he asked her to send someone to check on his master and his master's wife in the Empire. Rosways explained that a visit was possible, leaving him deeply grateful for the help. Soon after, he composed himself and thanked her more formally. Elsewhere, in the garden of the Silver Dragon Sanctuary, Myun approached and asked if her father was sick. Surprised, Leon denied it and wanted to know why she was asking. Myun then revealed that her mother told her it was he who took the medicine and that men couldn't say they were sick. He became furious, questioning how Rosways could say such things to a child and reflecting on his dignity. While the little one kept insisting on knowing if he was still sick, Leon scolded her and ended up biting his lip, making it bleed. Seeing the blood, Myun panicked and begged him not to die, saying she couldn't live without him. Leon calmed her, assuring her that he was fine while thinking that she really reminded him of her mother, especially her bluntness. To distract her, he offered to make a new toy and Myun excitedly celebrated the idea. With that, Leon began assembling a small colorful cube with his tools. Then he presented the magic cube and explained that she could turn its parts however she wanted, leaving the girl thrilled. He reflected that he had never thought of using his mechanical skills to care for children and wondered if he had a knack for it. Suddenly, his expression changed as he sensed something unexpected in the air. Immediately, he looked carefully toward the garden. Myun asked what it was, but he brushed it off, saying it was nothing. In his thoughts, he remembered feeling for a moment the gaze of a dragon coming from the direction where Noah usually trained. Knowing that she probably wouldn't want to approach, he decided to make a toy for the older girl as well. Later, Noah peeked through the bedroom door while Myun was already asleep. On the table, she found a magic cube with a note from Leon, challenging her to try to solve the puzzle. The girl held the cube, claiming she didn't care about childish toys. Even so, she began to turn the pieces with curiosity. Soon after, Noah hugged the gift with a smile and silently thanked her father. Although St. Heath Academy is a school of nobility with strict standards for dragons, a student's family is an important evaluation criterion. For this reason, to maintain the illusion of a united family, Rosweiss brings everyone to the floating city. As soon as they arrive at their destination, the woman lands in her majestic dragon form. Then, Leon approaches and says he will help Myun get down slowly. While he holds her, the girl asks why he didn't transform into a dragon too. At that moment, he awkwardly thinks that he's great at killing dragons, but not at becoming one. Soon after, Noah suspiciously asks if he really can't do it. Faced with the question, the man is completely speechless. So Rosweiss explains that his body still hasn't recovered enough to take on dragon form. Moved, Myun asks her father to get better soon and he promises to try, though he thinks it's impossible. With the moment behind them, the family heads toward the city gates. Enchanted by the sight of so many dragons, the girl gets excited, but her sister tells her not to walk so fast. At that moment, Leon starts to visibly tremble. Noticing his reaction, Rosweiss comments that it's the first time he's seen so many dragons since he woke up. With a teasing smile, she asks if he's afraid. However, he denies it and says that, in fact, he's very excited. His eyes shine as he thinks that the streets are full of prizes and that he's going to get rich. In this way, the woman realizes that she worried for nothing while he's already calculating his profits. Soon after, the bell of a photo studio door rings. An attendant welcomes them, greeting the Silver Dragon Queen and her family. As they enter, Myun excitedly points to the many dragon photos on the wall. Curious, Leon then asks why Rosweiss had to come in person, since kings command their own clans. After hearing her explanation, he teases her by saying that her title isn't worth that much. Irritated, the queen kicks in with the tip of her shoe. As he crouches in pain, she says her title is still higher than his. The photographer comments that it's an honor, and Rosweiss says they were lucky to get an appointment with her. Then the woman asks about Leon's tail, but his companion requests a suit without room for it. She remembers how he once refused to wear tail decorations, claiming it hurt his dignity. Back to the present, the photographer guides them to try on their outfits, and Myun celebrates that she'll wear a pretty dress. Sometime later, the girl and Noah appear in their new dresses. Right after, Leon shows up wearing an elegant white suit. Delighted, Myun immediately praises her father, saying he looks very handsome. The photographer comments that the suit suits him well, and the man recalls that the last time he wore one was at graduation. With a smile, he turns and asks Myun's opinion. Embarrassed, the girl agrees that he looks handsome. He then compliments his daughter's dresses, saying they look adorable, too. At that moment, the curtain of the nearby fitting room opens. As soon as Roseweiss appears in a black dress, Myun exclaims that Myun looks beautiful. Seeing her, Leon is surprised and completely speechless. When she asks what's wrong, he awkwardly replies that the dress suits her. The woman suggests that he would look better with a tail, but the man immediately refuses the idea. Soon the girls call their parents, asking them to come quickly. Faced with this, the photographer announces that it's time for the photo and asks the couple to come closer. Reluctantly, the two move closer for the photograph. The photographer then asks them both to smile and begins the countdown for the picture. Soon, the family photos are revealed, showing all of them posing together. Upon seeing the images, the professional praises the couple, saying they really look like they belong together. Finally, the photographer informed them that the photos would take 6 hours and suggested the family enjoy a stroll through the city. As they left, everyone said goodbye to the photographer at the studio door. While walking down the street, Myun called her sister over to look at a stall. Surprised, Roseweiss commented that she was going shopping with her partner, who explained that it was to relax before Noah's test. Soon, the girls became enchanted with the prizes at game booth. Suddenly, a nearby noise startled the couple. The booth owner encouraged the children, saying they could hit the target if they kept trying. Observing, Leon noticed there were shooting games at the booth and Myun excitedly called for him. After seeing Noah lose, he thought that the game was designed so the owner would always make money. Roseweiss then explained that the game was difficult for the girl because it used traces of magical energy. At that moment, the owner offered the couple a chance to play and win a teddy bear for their daughters. Faced with this, the hunter turned and asked the girls if they really wanted the prize. The two vehemently denied it, but he understood that their answer actually meant yes. Without hesitation, he asked for 10 shots from the owner, warning that Roseweiss would be the one paying. Holding the gun, he thanked her and commented that he hadn't held one since Hunter Academy. With a quick shot, he hit the target dead center. Meanwhile, the booth owner thought he had adjusted the gun so that no one could win. To his surprise, all the targets were hit in a perfect sequence. Liam celebrated his own luck while the man muttered that it was impossible. Myun shouted that her dad was amazing and his companion admitted that he wasn't half bad. The owner then handed over the prize to the winner who thanked him with a victorious smile. Then, he gave the teddy bears to his daughters who thanked him excitedly. Roseweiss watched the scene and thought that when he truly dedicated himself, he had a certain charm. Soon, the young man noticed her gaze and wondered why she was staring at him. Nearby, a little girl asked her mother for a teddy bear too. Shortly after, Roseweiss found herself holding a giant teddy bear in surprise. Seeing the scene, Liam laughed at the vendor's frustration and, excited, asked the boss for 10 more shots. Despite a warning not to waste time, he replied that he was there to have fun with his daughters. The hunter asked if she didn't like it, and the woman replied that she didn't want one, but he insisted that he couldn't leave her empty-handed. Even though she thought the bears were useless, she admitted to herself that they were cute. Holding a teddy bear, Roseweiss asked him to come to her room after dinner. With the unexpected invitation, Liam was completely shocked. Later, the castle lit up, setting the stage for the encounter. As he walked down the corridor, he concluded that he had been summoned for an intimate moment. Even so, he pondered that if he went, he would suffer for a night, but if he didn't, the suffering would last all week. Determined, he decided to face her and ran toward the bedroom door. To his surprise, he noticed the door was unlocked. Cautiously, he entered the room and called for Roseweiss. Upon hearing the sound of water coming from the bathroom, he deduced that she was taking a bath. Looking at the door, he noticed her silhouette through the glass. With his heart racing, he convinced himself that they were really going to have a night together. Then, he tried to compose himself to control his own anxiety. Soon after, he peeked curiously as the bathroom door opened. Roseweiss then appeared wearing a nightgown and invited him to begin. Desperate, Leon realized that she planned to drain all of his energy again. Right at the start, Roseweiss asked Leon whether he preferred to do it in the living room or on the balcony. In response, He said that the balcony would be embarrassing if someone saw them. With that, she agreed on the living room, stating that the place didn't matter. Liam then closed his eyes and took a deep breath, preparing himself for whatever was coming. Next, he shouted that he was ready to begin. Suddenly, he threw himself onto the sofa, making her question what he was doing. Lying down, the hunter asked in confusion if this wasn't what she wanted. Roseweiss then teased him, saying that he certainly seemed eager, but it would have to wait for another time. As he sat up, he asked what the scroll she was holding was. She revealed that it was St. Hit's Academy's test to assess the couple's habits and personality. She then explained that they needed to align their answers to avoid harming No's evaluation. Leon read the paper and questioned whether this wasn't just a silly compatibility game for couples. He then asked what her favorite color was, and while Roseweiss answered black, he sent his with silver. Afterward, they exchanged papers to check their answers. Immediately, they both exclaimed in embarrassment that it was all just a coincidence. The woman then suggested they test how much they knew about each other, and he agreed. A short time later, Leon announced that he had already finished his part of the test. When they compared results, he boasted that his score was higher than hers. In her thoughts, Roseweiss was impressed by the details he got right, such as the comfort of her tail. However, she noticed that his mistakes were only when he tried to guess her thoughts. For that reason, she reflected that the mistakes were normal since she never opened up to anyone. Given the situation, she considered that maybe she could open up a little more to her partner. Meanwhile, he noticed that she was staring at him and wondered if it was because of anger over the score. To break the silence, he laughed and reassured her, saying it was hard to get a high score with so little time spent together. Right after, he stated that for No's sake, they needed to try to understand each other a bit more. Upon hearing this, Roseweiss was completely flustered. Next, she hit him and told him to stop stalling and write down the correct answers already. Then, they argued about the answer to the disappointment question, with her expecting him to use his dragon strength another time. A week later, Leon celebrated their new average while Roseweiss slept in his lap. Satisfied with the result, he then said goodbye so he could leave. As he stood up, she grabbed his clothes and asked him to wait. Then, she invited him to take a bath in her bathtub before leaving. Leon then asked, surprised, if she really wanted him to bathe in her room. Without giving him time to think, Roseweiss pushed him toward the bathroom, telling him to go already. In the bathroom, he wondered why she was so insistent and whether she was planning something. However, he concluded that she was probably just tense because of the test. With that, he decided to simply enjoy the moment and got into the bathtub. Soon after, he relaxed in the hot water, thinking it felt great. Suddenly, he was startled to see Roseweiss entering the bathroom, wearing only a towel. She approached and said she had accumulated a lot of stress and wanted to relieve it now. Upon hearing that, he thought to himself, and he already knew this was going to happen. Soon, he shouted for her to find another way to relieve her tension and not dump it on him. With a smile, Roseweiss replied that transferring the stress onto him was the only way to relax. As she entered the bathtub, she teased him, asking if he hadn't come there with the same thought. Faced with the question, Leon had nothing to say and admitted that he had no arguments. Finally, she warned him that he wouldn't escape and should surrender to his fate. At last, the day of the entrance exam at St. Hit's Academy arrived. Upon arriving, Leon was impressed by the grandeur of the place. Standing at the entrance, he and Roseweiss grew serious for a moment. Then, the hunter quietly teased her about the stress therapy from the night before. Irritated, his companion cursed him softly, but he just laughed and called her to go inside. Once inside, they both observed the crests of the great families. Soon, a receptionist called for No Cosmo Melqui from the Silver Driving Tribe. The woman was surprised when she checked her clipboard and confirmed that the girl was only 1 year and 3 months old. Faced with this, Leon asked if there was a problem, but the receptionist said she was just a little surprised. She explained that although the minimum age was 1 year, most dragon hatchlings entered between 4 and 6 years old. Roseweiss then stepped in, stating that their daughter was smart and that they respected her decision. With that, the staff member directed them to the family evaluation on the 4th floor while No went on to take her test. They arrived at the meeting room located on the indicated floor. There, the couple sat on a sofa to wait with 3 other people. In a low voice, Roseweiss asked if he thought the others would be easy to deal with. Leon whispered back that they looked easy to defeat and that his former self would beat them in 50 moves. As the others noticed their presence, He whispered angrily that he would go after them all if they failed Noah. Then, a man introduced himself as Vice Principal Walter Wilson, in charge of the parental evaluation. Both responded with a smile, although the hunter suspected the evaluator might cause trouble. The vice principal then began by asking when their wedding anniversary was. Hearing the question, the two looked at each other tensely, as it was precisely the question they feared the most. In a flashback, Rose Weiss worried about how to answer since they weren't actually married, and Leon suggested using a memorable date. She then began to recite the agreed-upon date, the year 1733 of the creation era. Together, they answered with a smile that it was on May 25th, the day they met in the dungeon. The vice principal commented on how fast the marriage and pregnancy happened, and the hunter made up a story about love at first sight. Then, the evaluator asked if they had discovered any flaws or bad habits in each other. To sound more convincing, Leon said yes, while Roseweiss said no as they had agreed. Pressed to explain, Leon began to say that sometimes he felt he wasn't very important at home. Even so, he continued praising Roseweiss for being highly efficient and taking care of everything perfectly. However, he admitted that she built up stress and that he wished to help more, finishing with a mental plea for her to stop taking it out on him. During the interview, the lady asked the dragoness what her husband's most charming qualities were. Roseweiss then described him as handsome, intelligent, and responsible, listing several of his traits. He listened with a forced smile, not knowing whether he was being genuinely praised or just mocked. Then, she took his hand and told him not to overdo things. Moments later, she squeezed tightly, making him feel a bit of pain. Seeing the scene, the interviewers concluded that the two were a deeply in-love couple. The interview continued in a pleasant atmosphere among everyone in the room. To finish, the evaluator proposed that they ask each other one final question. Roseweiss smiled and said she had no questions, as she already knew everything about her partner. Then, the evaluator turned to the hunter, who wondered how to end the evaluation quickly. The inn surprised everyone by asking if she liked the teddy bear he had given her. The unexpected question left Roseweiss confused, not understanding his reason for asking it. With her flushed face, she timidly admitted that she liked the gift very much. Satisfied, he smiled and said he had no more questions to ask. Thus, the evaluator concluded the assessment and thanked the couple for their cooperation. A few days later, a messenger dragon flew in through the window, and Meum announced that the message had arrived. Anxiously, everyone gathered around the table as Leon prepared to open the scroll. The letter revealed that Noah had passed the evaluation and should attend the admission ceremony. As the sisters celebrated her success, the parents looked at the result in surprise. They had Meum hugged her sister, saying that she and their parents were amazing. Roseweiss thanked her partner, but he replied that there was no need, as Noah had done it all herself and was his daughter. With a smile, the woman announced a banquet and said he would help so he wouldn't feel unimportant, making him call her petty and spiteful.